Navigating the moral depths in Godzilla's Reiwa Era can be tricky. Godzilla in the Reiwa Era has just begun, and the one movie and 3 animated series that go with it are just the start. And then we have Godzilla -1, which is part of that, coming out today in the US. The only theatrical release so far has been Shin Godzilla. And yet again, it highlights the dangers of nuclear fusion and asks the questions, how can we control the monster we unleashed? In preparation for the new movie Godzilla -1, we've set aside this week to examine the history of the subgenre. So grab your coffee and join us as we dig into the 4th and final era of the Godzilla period, the Reiwa Era. We need like an echo chamber to say Reiwa.
That would be the way to go.
Yeah. So we're just going to be looking at this one movie because we're not looking at the animated series. We'll look at just everything in view because there's so much that's coming out. There's stuff here from Toho Studios. There's stuff from Hollywood that's come out, and this barrage. I got a couple of charts and things that'll help navigate us through to say what's going on, what's out there, and everything. But for this one particular movie that we're going to dive in today, Shin Godzilla, what would you say? Is this appropriate for all audiences?
No.
Why would you say not? And that expression,
you're like gory. It's definitely more violent. It's a lot more intense.
Yeah,
than a lot of the others. I mean, smack dab right in the beginning. I mean, they don't. A lot of the other Godzillas from Japan have a lot more build up before Godzilla comes out. A lot more introduction to the characters and what's going on. This one hits you right at the beginning.
Boom, bleeding right away. So there is no sex, nudity, profanity, but the violence and gore are on the moderate level, a little bit higher than what you would expect from baby Godzilla coming out and smiling at all the kids.
I wouldn't say it.
No. So
smiling, maybe.
Just like all the other eras, there has been a catalyst for something to get it going. In the last couple of eras, it was because the Americans had done something or we're going to do something. They said, we better get out there and produce something. The catalyst for this was different. It was more like the catalyst for the first era. It was a nuclear disaster. This was the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, the power plant that after an earthquake and tsunami, a couple of the reactors had melt down, and there were the earthquake, tsunami, and 164,000 people were displaced because there were deaths that were related to it. Not as many as there could have been. There could have been a lot worse. And the fallout, both by radiation and political fallout, was pretty bad. And one of the problems that they had during this was that the government did not respond very quickly or very well, and which is really odd for Japan because they're so used to being their response for earthquakes and tsunamis is like top notch. I don't know if any other nation that's really better than them, but with this, they were just kind of stumbling along, it appears now. So what this seemed to have motivated the movie. It brought Godzilla back to the big screen after a 12-year hiatus. And some of the things that happened with the bureaucracy, they were a big part of the movie. So did that line with what you had seen? In the movie?
This one is completely different flavored. I know that we've gone through these eras. They've gone goofy, they've gone not goofy, they've gone serious for a couple, and then they've gone really crazy. And then the one right before this, of course, was the Final Wars, which was just a bunch of giant monsters fighting each other with really goofy music.
Let them fight.
Yes, that sums up the entire movie really well.
Let them fight, please.
As to Shin Godzilla, this one was interesting.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. I
it-
did not like it the first time I watched it.
No,
I really did not like
why?
it.
Because
at
you had
all.
your expectations were different. For
My
it or something?
expectations were more of a typical Godzilla from Japan, and this one was just so extremely different. The second time I watched it, went back through and watched it, I watched it on its own merits,
Yeah.
as its own thing, and I really enjoyed it a lot more. The concepts were a lot more interesting. The concept of Godzilla being basically this thing that can instantly evolve,
Yeah, yeah.
almost.
So we will, unlike some of the previous ones, since we're focusing more on one movie on this one, although we're going to do like a review of the section, we're going to have a spoiler section later where we're going to delve into the nuance and the different parts of the story. So if you haven't seen it, that'll be there. But we're not there. We're not to that spot yet. I do want to go over a couple of. Since there's so many movies that came out during this era, both in Hollywood and, well, not so much with Toho, but with Hollywood, you kind of get confused with what's going on. So I want to just kind of put those out there on the screen real quick. This is a list of the Hollywood movies that were produced. Some of this was before this era and then after. So before this era, we talked about this before. This is the 1998 TriStar Air Pictures version where Godzilla comes to New York and makes a mess of things. And that was the reason for why the previous era, the Millennium Era, started. But it was worthwhile putting that in because that was one of the Hollywood films. And then we're looking at the others, 2014, 19, 21, 24. You have all these different movies that came out, and we're probably familiar with them. You probably have seen these.
Not the 24 one.
What's that?
Not the 24 one.
Oh, no. Okay.
You have not seen the 24 one yet because I'm looking forward to that
that's
one.
it. Yeah, that one has yet to come out. But just real quickly, I'm not going to go into too much detail on these, but I do want to frame this up. We have Godzilla again. Why do you keep naming the same thing? Godzilla, and this is produced by Legendary and Warner Brother Pictures. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus Kong, and then we have a new Godzilla versus Kong, the New Empire, coming out next year,
which I'm looking forward to. Now, those were all American.
Those were the American ones.
We've only been in this review. We've been focusing on the Japanese originals coming over from them.
Right.
Although we did definitely refer to the American one,
the TriStar
last one, because
in '98,
Japan was just beating the crap out of
it. Okay, look back. I didn't think it was all that bad, but then we could have covered others that were in there too. Like all the animated series.
Oh, there's a lot of other Godzilla things going on.
Right. It's huge.
You got like Godzilla Planet, I think is one of them.
Godzuki.
Yes, you got Godzilla, the animated series with Godzuki.
Oh my gosh.
And
yeah.
I grew up on that one, so
yeah,
it's got a special place in my heart.
Oh my gosh.
But
that's what ruined it for you, man. It is completely dorky. If you watch it now, your brain will just melt. So I've got some posters here from the American ones. This is the '98 TriStar. Yes, it looks like Jurassic Park released on New York. Then you have Godzilla again, and then you have Godzilla, King of Monsters, and Godzilla versus Kong. Now I just recently watched this again, which is unless you understand some of the look it over the side. Unless you understand some of the Toho past, where you have people that it could somehow communicate with the monster and stuff like this, and Mechagodzilla and everything, because they were pulling everything into this one.
Oh yeah.
And unless you understood some of this, you might like saying, "Okay, it's fine," but you have a deeper appreciation for it if you know some of the other history. And then finally, we have coming out next year, Kong versus Godzilla.
You're not that tall.
No, I'm not. I can put the chair up. Okay, so those are the American ones. And just there's an honorable mention just to put them out there. That's not the focus of the Reiwa Era because that's just coming out of Japan.
And it's only one movie.
Yes. And so that's what I want to talk about here. So here you have the green lines are for the movies, and the sort of orange color is animation, the animated series or animated
Planet
films.
of Monsters. Okay, that's what it was.
Okay, so 2016 Shin Godzilla. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. Then you had the animated. You had Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters, and it shows the monsters that are being fought here. 2018 City on the Edge of Battle, and 18 again, the Planet Eater. So these all build up the I don't know, I guess you'd say the background kind of for this. Now, I have no idea if Godzilla minus one is going to be based on any of this before. Shin Godzilla was, I think it might have been the first movie that didn't even reference the 1954 movie. It was as if this was the first time Godzilla had come out, and no one had seen the movies before because no one referenced it and said, "Oh, this is just like the movie. We should go back and watch the films. Maybe it'll give us a clue." It wasn't. Didn't have any of that. So I don't know. Godzilla minus one, maybe. I haven't been listening to any of the spoilers on it or anything. It may be related or maybe a total reboot and scratch. We'll find out. And then in our next live stream, we'll do the review on that. And that's coming up Monday. So I'm going to throw up a couple of pictures here. This is the animated one, the first one that came out.
That's an interesting concept. I did watch some of it originally. I think I watched the first one.
This is the Planet of Monsters. That's
Planet
the first
of Monsters
one.
I watched.
Okay. And then the next animated one.
So it's really all one series. That animated, to my understanding, that is all one series. Okay. A continuous story throughout the entire thing.
Okay. And then, of course, we have the new movie coming out.
Minus one.
I
don't think that is Shin Godzilla. So
doesn't look like it. No. They totally destroyed Shin Godzilla. Oh, spoiler in the movie. Not that you couldn't see that coming. Okay. So those are all the different films. Again, this is just to give you a background for what's going on. The going forward from here, it's probably going to be spoiler territory. If you've not seen Shin Godzilla and you'd want to, you might want to back out. But let's just go ahead and dive into it. The film critiques and makes fun of the dysfunctional bureaucracy in Japan, and yet still has to pull everybody together to defeat this monster. The movie closes with a message of collaboration and ends with an interesting introspection on who the bigger monster is. Is it Godzilla or is it humanity that is the worst of the two? So what are your thoughts on this? I'm going to pull some things out here, but I want to see what you have to say.
Again, originally I did not like this one at all. I really didn't, because again, I came in with the concept of this was just like another one of the many Godzillas beforehand. Again, whenever you're watching a Godzilla for the first time, if you don't do any research beforehand and you're just going in cold turkey, it's kind of like opening up one of those Christmas boxes of candy with all the random candies in there and just hoping for the best and grabbing one and throwing them in your mouth. And let's find out what you get. Do you get caramel? Do you get chocolate? Do you get coconut? Who knows? So it's sort of that. It makes it a little interesting. This one was just so different when compared to those.
Now, why would you say it was different?
Again, it's not a real focus on, they do have human characters there, but all in all, the focus is more on the event that's happening. I'd say this is a lot more event driven than character driven.
Okay.
And the other ones were more character driven in a lot of ways, except for the whole comedy parts and the whole, just let the monsters fight each other and just start winging at each other. Let's see if we can make up a reason why they would fight. So when I rewatched it, though, the concept of Godzilla being this way was interesting because it was able to adapt and see it going through multiple revisions
Mm-hmm.
and becoming a really mad Charmander with a bad attitude.
That's probably a good way to put it.
He looks like it too. If
Lasers coming out of
fire on
every...
the back of the tail, he
Yeah.
would be, man, that's just Charmander.
That's
He's
his
coming to give us a hug.
ultimate evolved form. So, so just to give a real quick overview of the movie, this beast comes out of the ocean in its first form. You don't really see it much. It's just flinging around in the water, causing some destruction on the coast. And then it has 4 different forms that this evolves from. This sort of armless thing that just comes and bleeds a lot from its gills and crawls through ground. It just really kind of fast. It's amazing how fast this thing is. And this lifeless eyes that this has. It's more of a mutated abomination that comes out and just wantonly destroys things just because it's in so much pain. It doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't have existence. It just destroys out of pain, and maybe there's some anger there, but there's no other real lifeless. It doesn't have anything behind it. So and then it goes into this like little mini Godzilla wannabe, and then finally this big Godzilla that towers above anything else that's been out before in Godzilla, with this tail that just starts huge, long tail.
There's no reason for the tail.
Oh no, it zaps
Crazy.
a lot of things.
It zaps a lot of things, yeah, but I mean, it was long.
Yeah, and so that's how Godzilla is going, and then you have behind the scenes the reaction to this disaster that is in Godzilla form, and it's almost as if the sea creature has a soul and an existence of its own that is to test Japan. It has been pulled out of the ocean and is going through these evolutionary stages to see how Japan reacts. And the bureaucracy, they can't do anything with it. Now, this sounds familiar to what happened with the Fukushima disaster.
Well, even
it should.
Parallel to that, the first stage of it going through and as the sort of crawling creature that really represented a lot of the destruction that happened with the tsunami coming in.
Right.
If you look at the destruction, how things are happening, it's how people are just running away from this creature from the ocean that's just coming in.
Right.
This disaster.
It's like the tsunami wave coming in. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they did a great job on that, if that's what I believe that's what they were going for on that. And then you've got the stage of Godzilla actually looking Godzilla-y. Again, it's very different.
Yeah.
But that would be the radioactive nature of it.
And again, this is so the first Godzilla nuclear disaster, nuclear bombs from America, and Japan is trying to find its identity after this. I mean, the whole thing with the imperialism didn't work, and we're trying to find our identity again. And from that nuclear disaster, Godzilla was born. Well, same with this one, nuclear disaster. These were this nuclear waste that was buried on the bottom of the sea. Then this creature then evolves from that. It just basically not really evolves. That's a really wrong term for it. It mutates from that. Now, you do have a scientist who is aware of this going on. And this is a guy that is a zoologist, biologist, who was mocked by U.S. and Japan. He's right. He was right. And they were able to decipher his code, using the origami thing to get that. So this is, again, we have a nuclear disaster that has caused this bigger disaster that we're having to deal with. And how does Japan deal with it? The first thing is the bureaucracy, and then you have the two characters that rise up from it, and there's more of a story about them and how they help handle it. And so in the end, we're able through technology to defeat the monster and put him back in his place.
There is one key element in this, though.
What's that?
And this is really critical. Oops. America's not a bad guy.
No,
America did not screw up this
no,
time
wasn't
in
it?
this
Wasn't it
run.
our waste that was on the bottom of the sea?
No, I thought it was Japanese
Oh.
waste or just general
I'd
waste.
have to-
I don't know if it was really
I'd have
specifically
to go.
said,
Okay.
but America does come in there and try to help at least. Really messes up. Granted, still a bunch of people died.
Well, yeah, but
But-
we also threatened to drop a bomb if if Japan doesn't have it worked out.
details. Hey, our default is bomb.
Well,
Okay?
no, it's not. But yes, I understand what you're saying. So
In the movie, it
In the
was
movie.
default was bomb. Okay,
yes,
you're a big Godzilla, bomb it.
right.
You lost your baseball game.
So there's a couple of things I want to pull out other than the bureaucracy and then overcoming that to be able to do it. Okay, there's a theme there that's going on. And the bigger theme is Japan is being tested by this monster, this disaster and embodied in this monster, and we have to pull together as a people. So I think to understand the movie, you also have to understand a lot of the Japanese mindset. And I'm not, an expert on this at all, but I understand a little bit. And there is a lot to be said about community cohesiveness, working together to get the job done. It's if you look at the way that they run their companies and organizations, you're a part of this group. It's not as individualistic like in America, where it's more the individual person. It is the group working together as a group, and they didn't do that well at the beginning of the movie. It was a bit of a mess, and they come together and they pull together as a group. So there's that group mentality. The other part of it that you might need to consider here too is animism in Shintoism. And this would be it was probably good live stream to do, just talk about the different types of religion and philosophy in science fiction. And you should probably be aware of all this, but sometimes it creeps in without you even knowing. They just assume that this is it. The idea behind animism is that objects are anime. They have a soul of themselves, and probably my phone, it talks to me, so it does have a soul. But no, besides that, okay, let's say a mouse. A mouse, this inanimate object, has a spirit or soul behind it. And sometimes that acts on its own. So I should do that. How about coffee? No, coffee too. Okay, so there's a lot of things around us that are animated like that. So, but this creature that came out, even though it was lifeless eyes, it was as if it were animated and had life breathed into it, this soul, this thing. And we almost referred to as a god of destruction. Now, it's interesting how sometimes that word God is thrown around. So it's in looking at this and pulling out themes, I think it's important to keep these things in mind. You've got the collectivism within Japanese culture, plus the animism that's in there as well, because I think that feeds into it. Do you have any other, did you see any themes or any kind of overall driving philosophy that was in the story?
No, I'd say this also goes back to the religions you can find in the area as well. The concept of spirit being in everything is also something that's found within their religions themselves.
Okay.
So this just adds another level to it. Now, as far as the spiritual aspect of this entire thing, oh no, I thought this was it's an interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think that there wasn't really any deep spiritual level as far as an issue goes. It was just, it's okay to watch.
Oh, no. I wasn't talking about that necessarily, about, watching out for, false religions or something like that. I was just saying that their philosophy plays into the story, and some of that does get into spiritualistic aspects where you do have the animation. Just keeping that in the back of your mind, because it's not really.
It's definitely something that influences it. I mean, just naturally it would.
Yeah, if you look at the writer of the show and some of his earlier anime, he really gets into it there, and some of that does bleed into Shin Godzilla. But okay, so in terms of taking those themes and then looking at it in a Christian light, I would say there's a message about collaboration. There's two things. So we'll take the message of collaboration. What positive theme can you pull out of that? I would say the church should be acting. This is how the church should be acting as a group to pull together and to serve the community. Yep. So there's that aspect of it. But that's kind of I think that theme's a little bit weak. You could also look at it and say government sucks because they can't get their act together. They're supposed to do this, but they can't. And then, but the second thing that you might be able to pull out, and I think this is stronger, is that just as in the Heisei millennial eras, Shin Godzilla shows that we're responsible for actions. And instead of the U.S. causing this nuclear disaster, it's Japan. Truth, repentance, and humility are the key to help defeating the monster, because you need to find out what's going on. You need to be humble about the situation and realize that, maybe you can't do it all, that maybe there is some of your own fault that was in there as well. And repentance based on that. So I think there's some themes like that. This is not as strong. This movie here, I don't think there is a strong themes
not
are
as
going.
Strong, no.
Yeah, and there's sometimes you're going to watch something. It's like, okay, well, good. I enjoyed it. But the thing was like a tumor.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like this Godzilla thing. It just keeps growing and the eyes and weird
now
stuff.
We're getting down to
it was gross.
It was gross. It was interesting concept, but if they're going with this being basically cancerous, because of the radiation, most of its body is cancerous, then that would be expected.
Poor thing, put it out of its misery.
That would be what we would expect to see. I mean,
ugh.
It was interesting though.
Yeah, wasn't happy dancing Godzilla. This was not that at all.
Oh, this is mad Pokemon.
Which
vengeful Pokemon.
Which Pokemon did you say it was?
Charmander.
Charmander.
You got the tail. You got the fire off the tail.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the whole laser light show was interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I would say the special effects were better. Have
oh yeah, as far as
better.
The animation goes, I'd say probably this is one of the better ones, if not the best one out of Japan to date.
And you would expect that being like, from what I understood, they did. This is all CGI as opposed to animatronics. That they did do an animatronics version, but they actually didn't use it in the movie.
Yeah, they did do a lot of physical effects as well in this one, but yeah, they heavily relied on computer graphics going through that avenue, and I think it really paid off as far as how it looked. I think it looked much. It didn't have the cheesy. Oh, those are definitely little tanks he's stepping on.
No, I don't know. That's fun. Okay, so if you, it is.
It is fun and it is enjoyable and it has its own charm.
It kind of passed that uncanny valley where at the beginning, maybe back in the 1950s, like, oh, I was like, come on,
that's really cheesy.
That's the cheesy valley. And then you come out of the cheesy valley, and now it's just like,
that's comedy.
It's just fun.
It's just fun.
So if you like this material, please let us know and share it. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. We have a couple more coming up. Of course, Monday, we've already talked about it. We have Godzilla Minus One review. And then after that, we're venturing back out. And now that we finally climbed out of Godzilla territory, we're coming back to something a little more, I don't know, maybe a little more serious. Definitely more serious.
More theology based.
More theology based. Where did Jesus say, I am God, worship me? So a big change from Godzilla. So again, thank you for your time. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. If you happen to go see the movie, join us again.
Oh, yeah. You'll be doing a poll on that, right?
Yes.
You mentioned that earlier.
Yes, I will be doing a poll. So please look at the poll and answer.
Let us know what you think about Godzilla Minus One if you go see
it.
If
you see it, yeah.
Then we'll pull that up during the review and see what your guys' response was.
Yeah, we want to see what your response was.